Hello everyone and welcome to the Hobby Guard. In today's video we will be taking a look at the narrated gameplay trailer for Warhammer 40,000. I will almost say Rogue Trader, but actually this one is Dark Heresy, but it is made by the same studio, Owlcat Games. I've talked at length about this game and why I'm so hyped for it. I obviously love Rogue Trader, but there is a new trailer today which I haven't watched. So let's take a look at it, and we'll see if there's any new information, anything more that makes me even more excited for when this game comes out, and we'll break down what we find.
The Imperium
There you go.
is subjective, but duty is paramount.
Yeah.
As an Inquisitor, you are judge, executioner, and instrument of the God Emperor's will. Your authority is absolute. A city drowns in prayer and fear.
Wait,
People
so
are
we are gonna be an
vanishing.
Inquisitor?
Something is pulling the strings from the dark, and whispers spread through sanctuaries.
I thought it would be
and slums alike.
interrogators
You'll
for some
search
reason.
crime scenes, follow leads, interrogate witnesses, and collect evidence.
Oh, nice.
Every detail you uncover goes into your investigation journal, where you connect clues, test theories, and build your case.
We're going
piece
real
by
noir
piece. You
with
can take the
this.
fast route, accusing the first culprit who fits, closing the file and letting fear do the rest. Or you can keep pulling on
Hey
the
man,
thread
that's fair.
and feel the icy
Innocence
hand
proves
of
nothing,
dread
remember.
grow ever colder at your spine. You will not hunt alone. Your
Disgusting
retinue is a weapon.
Xenos filth.
Companions who bring their own
They're going nowhere near my retinue.
perspectives and lines they won't want you to cross. But what matters is your duty and the outcome. The strict certainty of a Puritan or the pragmatic edge of a radical.
So a lot of like the assets are
Both
reused from
valid.
Rogue Trader, which is
Both
fine.
come with consequences.
It's a massive game, it makes
In
sense.
your investigations, combat becomes yet another way of asserting control. When words fail, judgment.
I wonder what the
becomes
hell that is.
tactical.
Is that some like
The system
heretic
is built
stuff
to
going
keep
on there?
Fights sharper and more responsive. Cover is streamlined and it can be destroyed. You can also aim at specific body parts.
Well, combat
to
does
disable
seem very-
enemies before
very
finishing
different.
them. Concentration lets you deny opponents their most dangerous attacks.
That's new.
While morale can break a force even before the last shot is fired.
Nice.
And once a battle is clearly decided, you can end it on your terms. It's up to you to choose how you want to deal.
So you can
with
literally, even your after your enemy gives up, you can be like, nah,
hands are clean.
I didn't hear no bell, and just keep going at them.
Innocence proves nothing.
Innocence proves nothing, see? So that is cool. That is something I had heard about previously.
Period.
That hold on, let me lower the volume here. That's something I had heard about previously, that actually you can objectively, like, you can choose to punish the wrong person, the wrong culprit, even though you might know they were innocent. But some people already played a few levels of this game. I think there was like a beta or something like that, and I don't like that stuff. That's why I didn't even like sign up for it, because I like to play the whole thing. I don't want to play like the first 2 levels and then a year ago from now, or whenever it comes out, just play it all over again, because I have so little free time to play games, unfortunately, right? But I will say a couple of things. They mentioned that you can actually blame the wrong person for a crime, or from heresy or whatever, but that you might still get something out of it, right? It is not like, oh, you blame the wrong person, now you lose your detective, your police badge, or anything like that. No, this is Warhammer. The wrong person gets blamed the whole time, because again, innocence proves nothing, and no one is innocent. And show me the person and I'll show you the crime, as the old saying goes. So apparently you can, blame innocent people of crimes for political gain and for power and for resources and things like that. So that is like the full immersive Inquisitor experience, because again, remember, Warhammer 40,000 is a world where 99.9% of the population is completely discardable. They all lived in no, not all, but a lot of them live in like absolutely horrific conditions, and they have very little agency in their day-to-day lives. However, there is the select few that have achieved a higher position in the chain of command of the Imperium, if you will, of the Imperial machine. And Inquisitors and Inquisitorial agents are almost like foremost among them. Like they're like very high up there in the hierarchy of the Imperial machine. So us being either an Inquisitor or an Interrogator, I thought we were gonna be Interrogators. Maybe we start as Interrogators and we eventually become Inquisitors. I'm not too sure. I don't want to like spoil myself too much off of the story, because we're supposed to be following, actually working under the orders of that Inquisitor that is standing there, the one with the cool ass sick MFing wig. Sorry. But anyways, us being that person and being able to roleplay as that in the Imperium is an amazing role to have, because especially if you're acting with like little resources, as you seem to be in this game. Like some Inquisitors have entire fleets at their command, right? Entire Space Marine chapters at their command, but that does not seem to be the case with us. We seem to be like a smaller retinue, perhaps operating more low-key, you know, more undercover. And I appreciate that, because it means both we are very powerful people, objectively, like in the hierarchy of this universe, but also we have to be careful, because we are also in hostile territory. We are surrounded by enemies, and we do not know whom amongst our so-called allies might actually be a filthy, disgusting traitor scum. So I do like the idea of being able to blame the wrong person for the right reasons. Now that is something I am very excited to see how it works, like the crime scene solving, sort of the forensics of solving a crime scene and whatever. That's not something I don't think I've ever done in a CRPG on this way, right? Like where you get to like, well, no, that's a lie. I've done it in like Lovecraft CRPGs, like Call of Cthulhu and so on. But are those considered CRPGs? I suppose they are to an extent. But anyways, let's just call them RPGs. And it is interesting, but the reason I'm more excited about that for this game is because, again, I played Rogue Trader, and I've played it for hundreds of hours, and I am nowhere near finishing that game. So I know how much I'm also a very slow player. I'm very bad at games, but I am aware of how much content and nuance and just how many things that you have the ability to interact with in Owlcat's games. So there being an entire system to like search for clues and compare notes, if you will, keeping track of your previous notes, as you can see in the next one, and maybe that, like here, I think that will be very interesting for this game. I think just knowing myself, I will spend hours just trying to determine trying to get to the bottom of a crime, and I absolutely love that. Just in general, it's not something that I've done much in games, to be honest, but I do it every time I read a book. You know, whenever I'm reading a book and there is like a plot twist or a mystery in the plot or whatever, my brain is rushing already ahead of the narrative of the plot, collecting information and connecting dots, and that's just something I love. I love theories, like fan theories and so on. I love coming up with those, especially in Warhammer, and I just know for a fact that I will spend hours doing that in this game. So that's something I'm very hyped about. There's gonna be a lot of reading, obviously, but there's a lot of reading in all these games. So yes, we know we'll have some Xenos allies, but the other thing that caught my eye from this trailer... Where is it? Here, the combat. First of all, what the hell is that? There's definitely some tech heresy afoot over there. But combat seems like they say a lot more streamlined. Perhaps there's gonna be like a lot faster, a lot more like a shootout in a cop movie. Perhaps you're not there for hours, like maybe you were in Rogue Trader. Certainly, combat seems not to be necessarily the sole focus of this game. Not that it was in Rogue Trader either. It's certainly a big part of it. But perhaps, like in any good lore-rich and story-rich RPG, perhaps your party composition and how you develop and level up your characters and the relationships, the politics, if you will, of your character with the other NPCs that may or may not join your party is as much a part of progressing the game as combat, right? Sort of like a narrative combat, if you will. Does that make sense? Using the example of Rogue Trader, if you make friends with, for example, a tech priest, that will often open options in the story, not necessarily only in combat. If you have someone in your retinue that is a tech priest, and sometimes he'll come with good things, sometimes you'll be able to get out of sticky situations that you wouldn't have otherwise because you had a friendly tech priest with you. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you'll meet someone and they absolutely fracking hate that particular tech priest, so they want to fight you because of him. So that is you, the gameplay, being affected by the relationships that you established within your own party. And that's just one example, but there's many in that game. Now, that whole aiming system, I also find that intriguing, because that is not something that we had in Rogue Trader. And I wonder how it's gonna play, whether it's gonna have something to do with like the type of armor that you wear, or... Because I'm assuming if you can aim at the enemies, maybe the enemies can like also target specific body parts, you know, perhaps, you know, with the Infinite Museum, Museum, I think that's how you pronounce it, the new DLC for Rogue Trader. Basically, they introduced cybernetic implants, which, by the way, I haven't played and I'm dying to try those out. But yeah, prostheses and cyber implants for the characters. And basically you trade your body parts for implants. Is there perhaps something similar that happens here, where like, oh, you get shot in the head, you take too much damage in the head, you have the option of getting a cybernetic eye implant or a prosthetic leg if someone destroys your leg or something like that? I don't think, honestly, they would be going that route, but it's a cool idea, I think. And that I also found interesting, the whole morale mechanic, because it basically means that you can use that mechanic as a sort of strategy for your party building. I'm not saying it necessarily completely means that, but it is possible that you can have a morale shattering party, right? A party that is oriented and with their skill trees leveled up specifically, their builds, specifically planned to break the morale of your enemies. And that also has like some roleplay implications, which I find very cool. Perhaps if you like level up your coercion or things like that, or your intimidation, and you're building yourself as that type of interrogator, that type of inquisitor, whatever you end up being in this game, as that type of character, if you will, who wields their power like an iron fist and wields their reputation like a blade. Well, then that would be cool to have a party like that, almost like it's feared more than your average Inquisition retinue. That'd be very interesting, and I would assume perhaps you can pair that with some skills that are focused on breaking morale, or perhaps there's just like it's just a combat thing, and perhaps there's nothing that you can do to increase or decrease your chances of breaking morale other than causing enough damage to the enemies. I guess we'll see. Or perhaps it's like encounter specific.
It's up to you to choose how you want to deal with the suspect. In this war, no one's hands are clean. Anyone can be guilty because innocence proves nothing.
The last thing I want to say here is I absolutely love the character and world design of these games so far. Obviously, Rogue Trader, I think it outdid itself with how well, like both the story and the world design and everything, how well they captured the true grimdark of Warhammer. honestly, they did better than many of Black Library's new books and many of like the codexes and just new Warhammer, like tabletop Warhammer books that we have, as well as the Black Library novels that we have. There is just something about playing, for example, Rogue Trader, like the normality of the grimdark elements in it, and just how characters are like super cool with a lot of horrific stuff because it's just normal to them. That's exactly how it is in the lore. That's exactly how it was originally in the setting. As much as Games Workshop nowadays squirms at the idea of their own IP and how, I mean, sometimes. But no, yeah, like the true grimdark of Warhammer is explored very well, I believe, in Rogue Trader, like the story and the design. And I think that there is something with this type of game. Same with like the Chaos Gate Demon Hunters games, right? It has some very grimdark moments, some very dark designs and so on. But I think that they're only able to get away with it being that dark and that obscene and twisted because in this case of the asymmetric point of view, and even though the characters seem a bit more realistic than in Rogue Trader, there's still like a cartoonish element to them, right? Like they're not hyper realistic like in other games. Perhaps they would not be able to get away with showing so much gore and so much graphic grimdarkness on screen in game if they didn't have this art style, which is, you know what, I absolutely love it. I think that this game opens up so many opportunities to truly explore what it would feel like to be an Inquisitor in a system that is being devoured by heresy little by little, and trying to uncover that before the plague of heresy finally sprouts, finally blooms within the subjects of the Imperium. But with that being said, I'm obviously very hyped for this game. But now I would love to know your opinions on it. Are you hyped for the game? Are you gonna buy it? Do you think my predictions of the story and the gameplay are accurate, or have you heard something else? I'm sure there's a lot more information out there that I could find if I had the time or the inclination to look more for that info, because Owlcat Games are constantly sharing updates, and I do try to keep up to an extent, but it's just really hard. I have a lot going on. But with that being said, join the guard, hit subscribe. If you want to be part of the founding elements of this channel, the founding members, if you will, of this channel, because it's a very young channel. But even if you don't, if you just hit like, if you like my video, I would really appreciate it. If you want to be an absolute hero to your people, leave a comment down below, sharing your thoughts with the rest of us. And with that being said, thanks for coming, thanks for watching, Ad Astra, and remember, there are no female custodies.